What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and I am coming to the end of my holiday, which is disappointing, but obviously at least you'll get some regular content as soon as I get home. So let's just get straight into it. The news broke yesterday. Weird timing for me. It was like 10 o'clock I saw it, but that would have been 3 o'clock in the morning, so you guys definitely knew about it before I did. And fundamentally, the club, although it isn't technically up for sale, conversations have been had and people are involved or interested in buying Everton Football Club, which is a consortium headed by Kenyon, I think his name is, former CEO of Chelsea and Manchester United. So as a CEO, he's got pedigree. They've got lawyers involved. They've got all sorts of people potentially putting into this consortium. And look, that's fine. A lot of people are concerned because they're American. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong against Americans, but the way that they run football clubs has been odd. Man United hasn't really paid off. You could argue that for 10, 11 years under the Glazers, they've won nothing and become very unsuccessful. You can say that Liverpool have probably had the opposite, where they've been very shrewd and they've spent very little money and they've been successful. This is probably the recent summer where they're having a bit of a blowout and Klopp's made himself look like a bit of an idiot, but that's that. So when you look at where we are, and I have done videos on this before, as you know, I did one literally 2 weeks ago with Melzer, and you look at where we were before Moshiri. Well, before Moshiri, Everton had just finished 6th, 11th and 12th. It was February 2016, and we had a side, in my opinion, that was underperforming under Martinez because he couldn't defend. We've then gone through all of these changes, managerial-wise, directors of football models, etc., and I haven't enjoyed any of them. To be honest, I haven't enjoyed any of the managers, really, apart from maybe Lampard. I'm enjoying being under Lampard, albeit I still think he has lessons to learn. So my concern is very much that Moshiri hasn't taken the club forward. If anything, he's taken it backwards. And I've said that numerous times, and I mean it 100%. He has taken this club backwards, and I stand by it. We've sold all of the assets that we had, which were valued. Everton's value of a squad was usually higher than what we bought players for. So, for example, we bought Lukaku for 32 million or 28, depending on what you read. We sold him for 85. We had £30 million for Ross Barkley on the table, I think, at one point, or whatever it was. In the end, he leaves for 15. We had a really good side with players like Kevin Morales and Delafeu, who had pace and quality, and we had a team that, in my opinion, could compete with anyone. And now I feel like it's us as fans that can compete with anyone. The players aren't good enough, and that, again, I'm not just pointing fingers at the players, because the investment behind the scenes hasn't worked. The managers have been poor. I've been really disappointed under a tenure that I expected to be amazing. I will never forget, I was on a stag do in Bristol for my best friend's wedding, obviously, and the news broke while I was in the hotel room that Everton had been bought by Farhad Moshiri, and he was going to become the majority shareholder. And I was buzzing. I was so happy because I finally felt like we were going somewhere. And then in the summer, when he goes and spends millions on players, some good, some bad, I was happy still, but I was worried about what we were signing, because we were taking a lot of pace out of the side, and that's happened. Over the years, we've taken the pace out and we're now trying to get it back, but because of how much money we've spent, we're literally banging our head against brick walls, looking for deals of the century and trying to sell to invest. It's not great. It's not great. The only positive, in my opinion, of the Moshiri reign is the stadium, which even that, we still haven't had the announcement of who is actually funding 50% of it. So we know the costs, but who's funding the other bit? Like, we know Moshiri's funding some of it. He's always said he's funding some of it, but who's funding the other half? So we don't know about that. So when I look at Everton Football Club as of right now, and I see that people are interested in buying it, firstly, I'm shocked and surprised. But secondly, and this is due to Moshiri's incompetence, I'm not against it. Like, I'm not against it. Am I concerned about the people that are involved in this? Absolutely. I am concerned about that. I think consortiums sometimes can work. Quite often they don't. I think having American backers or owners, they very much look for return on investment quite quickly. I don't think you're going to get that with Everton until the stadium is built, but they've got to put money in to do that. There's a lot of debts behind the scenes, so they're happy to take the club on with that. And they've gone through this process. There's been conversations being had, because we've got to a point now where Moshiri is actively talking to these people. And whether you believe that he wants to sell the club or not, he's allowed conversations to happen. Like, this isn't like he's just had an email shot at him and they've gone, yeah, we want to offer you 500 million quid for the club. And he's gone, no, I'm alright. He's had conversations with them, so he's open to the idea of selling Everton, which again isn't something we didn't know, because apparently news broke in March that he was, albeit I didn't believe it. So this, again, as always, is going to cause a little bit of a shitstorm, in my opinion. Now, the people who are involved in this, there's people with money. I don't think any of them are singular billionaires. I think there's lots of multi-millionaires involved, hundreds of millions, but then none of them are billionaires. Peter Kenyon's at the forefront of it, who obviously was a CEO at Manchester United and Chelsea. So you at least can say he knows what running football clubs looks like. Whether that's good, whether that's bad, he knows what it looks like, which is probably more than Moshiri knows, because let's be honest, Moshiri definitely lacks a footballing clue. Like, he doesn't have one, whereas at least I like to think that this guy might. So you've got that. They've got lawyers involved in America here who are apparently doing due diligence on Everton, and they're asking for guarantees that Everton won't get any sanctions or fines or anything due to financial fair play. And this is going to be broadly obvious to us, because if this falls through at this point, it's either for two reasons. One, Moshiri's asking for too much money, or two, Everton are expecting a points deduction. So when you sit there and look at it, it's very interesting where Everton are going, because I'm really concerned, albeit I'm trying to smile through it, I'm really concerned that next season's going to be even fucking tougher than this season. And, you know, people will say, yeah, we'll bring in money for players and we'll bring in money. We don't want to lose Richarlison. We don't. As fans, we don't. I don't want to lose Richarlison. I understand he may have to go. I get it. Like, he may have to go, but I don't want him to. And Calvert-Lewin is being told he's going to have a team built around him, and we want him to stay. So it's almost like we're open to losing the man that kept us in the Premier League, in my opinion, along with Anthony Gordon. We're all right with that. You go. Not as fans. That's the club. You go. You will reinvest the 60 million, which, by the way, that's 25 million short of my personal value on Richarlison, and it's 35 million for Calvert-Lewin, but that's just my opinion. So we're happy for him to go for 60, 50, 75, 70 million, whatever, which is still lower than I think. But we're going to play with a striker who we were really concerned wasn't bothered about playing for Everton. And look, albeit, I like Calvert-Lewin, and I hope he does want to stay at Everton, and I hope he wants to smash it this season and not have the injury issues. I really do. But losing Richarlison is a bigger gamble, because this guy stepped up at the end of the season, scored goals and got assists that kept us in the Premier League. He was He was an Everton fan on that pitch. That's exactly how it felt to me. And I am scared of losing him when we only just about stayed up and we may not have lots of money to spend. And the track record of this board and everyone involved spending that money. You know, if you're gonna say to me, Mike, you're getting £65 million in and you can invest every single penny. Well, how much is Conor Gallagher? 40 mil? Are we going to go and get a winger from abroad where they may or may not have the physicality for the Premier League? They may not adapt. It may not be good enough. We're taking this gamble, and I just think it's so bold. It's so bold what the board are planning, or Kevin Thirlwell is planning, and I think Lampard's got a massive job in his hands next season, and that's my concern. My concern is this board have put us into a position where we are literally stuck against a wall with a rock. We are literally in the middle. We can't do fuck all, because unless new money comes into the club and pays off these debts and we can start moving in the right direction again, when does it end? When does it end? Does this current squad right now keep us in the Premier League? You'd argue probably just. But if you start taking away quality from that, I then worry. So, yeah, I've got major concerns about either one. Moshiri's ownership or these guys' ownership. But the fact I'm not against new owners just speaks volumes of Moshiri for me. And he's a billionaire. Yes, he would have lost money in Everton. I've got no doubt about it if he sells the club, because the amount he's invested into it. All of the loans I think he's provided to Everton are interest free. I feel like his heart has 100% been in the right place, but he just doesn't have this. And I think that might cost him. And if he wants out, and he's going to have to go. He's going to have to go, and this will be our option. This consortium. I just hope that they're prepared to invest on a regular basis and get Everton back to where we feel we deserve to be, which is challenging for Europe and trying to compete for cups. And the long-term vision is to be fighting for the league. We heard Denise Barrett-Baxendale 2-3 years ago saying Everton want to be challenging the top of the Premier League. We were almost in the Championship last season. So, yeah, major concerns. I think the only thing that gives me any shred of comfort is the fact that I do feel like some change is happening. So at least we're not rolling into next season in the same way that we was. We've also had some open communication with Farhad, which is better. But let's be honest, all in all, it's an absolute shit show at Everton, and it has been for a while. And as I said in my last video, until change starts to happen, we are still in the same position we was last season. So start changing it, because the sooner we do it, the better. Because these players are going to have a hell of a year next year. They're going to have a season starting when it starts. They've got a World Cup right in the middle of the season. They've then got the rest of the season to do. These players are not... And if they have bad World Cups, I mean, we saw what happened with Calvert-Lewin this season. I genuinely believe that all of his issues stemmed and started from England, where he was picked in that team and he didn't get a minute. And for a striker who was on top form, valued at probably 50 million, that would have been a massive kick in the teeth. And I just don't want to see Everton going down that route again. I don't want to see Everton being in the same position next season. So, I don't know. I also worry that if there's new people involved and Moshiri's happy to sell the club, which he's not adverse to, clearly, otherwise he wouldn't be having talks. So he is okay with selling the club, when does that happen? Like, how fast does this happen? And the reason why I say that is, as ridiculous as this sounds, it took me 6 months to get into my house with the mortgage and the solicitors. We can't be waiting until after deadline. We can't be waiting until September for this to happen. If this is going to happen, this has got to happen in the next 6 weeks. It's got to happen. So, yeah, look, I don't know what to say. I am worried, I am concerned, but at least, change does appear to be happening. And we'll leave it at that. Guys, keep smiling. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. The setting will be better from Friday onwards, and I'll keep you posted on anything that happens, of course. Peace.